It is Friday the 15th of June 2018. I'm in front of the Unitarian Church in Montreal, and I'm just doing my little bit to participate in Purple Summer. You can see the hashtag Purple Summer chalk over there, and Purple Summer is an idea that victim survivor of childhood sexual abuse by the name of David Lean came up with. He previously came up with Purple Friday and Purple Christmas, and he decided to designate Friday the 15th of June of this year, 2018, as Purple Summer. And the idea is to raise consciousness to child abuse. Actually, it was originally specifically child sex abuse, but he has broadened it out to all forms of abuse of children. But I'm basically concentrating on child sex abuse committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, to say nothing of ordinary Unitarian Universalist lay people, and the cover-up and denial, even official denial, of sexual abuse of children, aka child sex abuse, by top-level leaders of the Unitarian Universalist Association, such as UUA moderator James See No Evil Key, also known as UUA moderator Jim Key, who brazenly lied about sexual abuse of children in what was supposed to be an official apology to victims of clergy sexual misconduct that he delivered at the 2014 General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association. In his first moderator's report to a General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association, UUA moderator James See No Evil Key slipped into the middle of that what was supposed to be a UUA Board of Trustees apology to victims of clergy sexual misconduct. So it was specifically limited to sexual misconduct committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers. And in that pretty well worthless apology that contained outright lies and certainly a lot of misleading misinformation, Jim Key said the following words: there were no incidents of abuse of children or elders in my investigations. So he essentially claimed that he had personally investigated Unitarian Universalist clergy sexual misconduct, and that in his investigations of Unitarian Universalist clergy sexual misconduct, also known as clergy sexual abuse, he found no evidence whatsoever of any sexual abuse of children or elders. As if ministers, choose the oldest people in the congregation for their sexual abuse. So the main thing here is, though, he denied any sexual abuse of children outright in an apology of all things. And this is a brazen, bald-faced lie. I had personally told Jim Key about cases where Unitarian Universalist ministers had been charged, tried, and convicted of the sexual abuse of children. And I also told him about how Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell of the Westboro and Northboro congregations in Massachusetts, whoops, the winds blew my sign down, how Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell had been charged, tried, and convicted of the forcible rape, and indeed the unnatural rape, you can figure out what that is, of teenage Tibetan refugees who he had lured away from their families in India with promises of a better life in America. So basically, Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell can't exactly be described as a pedophile because his victims were in their teenage years, mid to late teens, and in one case the rapes continued until his victim was in her early 20s before she finally ran away and reported his crimes to members of his congregation, and they in turn reported what they were told to the police, and the police arrested Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell, and he was ultimately charged, tried, and convicted of the rape of at least 2 teenage Tibetan refugees. So I think we can safely say that a teenage Tibetan refugee of 16 years old is a child, and Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell forcibly raped at least 1 or 2 Tibetan children, and he went to jail for that. And you can be sure that for every case where a Unitarian Universalist minister is charged, tried, and convicted of the sexual abuse of a child, or indeed children, because in some cases ministers have abused more than 1 child, as did Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell. But I'm talking now about in terms of pedophilia and molestation of children. There are some cases in the Unitarian Universalist religious community where a minister has molested more than a few children. So anyhow, that's a brazen, bald-faced lie. That's official denial of sexual abuse of children by Unitarian Universalist ministers, by UUA moderator James C. Key, or as I like to call him, James See No Evil Key. And like I said, I told him about the Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell case. I told him about other cases where ministers have been charged, tried, and convicted and sentenced to jail terms, and yet he just brazenly lied to Unitarian Universalists and indeed to the public in claiming that there were no incidents of abuse of children or elders in his investigations. I told him about the cases of abuse of children, and he just outright lied. And then of course there's the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association, under the leadership of UUA President Peter Morales, and also Unitarian Universalist Association Executive Vice President Kathleen K. Montgomery, and I do emphasize the word vice there because Kathleen K. Montgomery presided over 30 years or more worth of cover-up and denial of clergy sexual misconduct of all kinds. As Executive Vice President of the Unitarian Universalist Association, part of Kathleen K. Montgomery's job description was to coordinate the work of the attorneys of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and you can be sure that part of that work included coordinating the work of the attorneys that was towards the end of covering up and concealing sexual abuse committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers. In fact, there's some evidence that there was an attempt by the Unitarian Universalist Association to have the victims of Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell sign confidentiality agreements so that their rape by Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell would be kept secret. And then on Friday, June 1st of 2012, just over 6 years ago, I received in my email inbox a cease and desist demand letter from Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors litigation lawyer, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe, acting on behalf of the Unitarian Universalist Association. You can be sure that his work was supervised by UUA Executive Vice President, I should say Vice President, Kathleen K. Montgomery. And in it, he said the following words: "Your unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape are defamatory." And he went on to say that they're so defamatory that they constitute the criminal act of blasphemous libel. I'd never seen the term blasphemous libel before. I know what the word blasphemous means, I know what the word libel means, but I'd never seen the two of them together in a basically two-word phrase. So I looked up blasphemous libel, and it turns out that Canada, in the Canadian Criminal Code, has a anti-blasphemy law, and they essentially refer to blasphemy against a religion as blasphemous libel. And so they were accusing me of blaspheming against the Unitarian Universalist religion because I had blogged about Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and Richard Buell, who were both charged, tried, and convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. So my blog posts were by no means unfounded. And having researched Canada's blasphemy law a little bit, in fact, just within an hour or two of being accused of the crime of blasphemous libel, I quickly determined that even if I had been making false allegations about Unitarian Universalist ministers engaging in pedophilia and rape, that this might well constitute ordinary libel, which I could be sued for, but it would not constitute the criminal act of blasphemous libel, unless, of course, Unitarian Universalists hold such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape to be sacred and holy to Unitarian Universalism, at least when they're committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers. That's the only circumstance under which I could be convicted of the crime of blaspheming against the Unitarian Universalist religion. That's if they held pedophilia and rape to be sacred and holy. So somehow, as much as they're, a little loose on some things, I don't think they have gone that far. Or maybe it's a secret doctrine of Unitarian Universalism that I'm not aware of. Maybe they've got some secret doctrines that only Unitarian Universalist ministers know about. So the wind blew down my signs again, I just fixed them again. But that's it for now. This monologue is pretty well done. So this is my way of observing purple summer, and I'll just do a quick little selfie here to show that I'm actually wearing purple. So we'll just bring the camera around. So that's it. I got a purple baseball cap, purple shirt, and that's my purple wear for Purple Sunday. And the chalk is supposed to be purple, but it looks more pale mauve, but the chalk itself definitely did look purple, but when it actually gets put down on the sidewalk, it gets kind of pale mauve looking. So that's it. This segment is being wrapped up for the simple reason that my sensor's been overheating for some minutes now, and I don't want it to end abruptly and automatically while I'm in the middle of a spiel. So that's my spiel, my monologue for Purple Sunday, Friday the 15th of June 2018, and congratulations to David Lean for initiating this day to call attention to abuse of children in general and sexual abuse of children in particular. Thank you very much, David Lean, and everyone supporting him.